This is Hard Facts.
Okay, 13 minutes gone past the 4 o'clock hour, and welcoming you to Global Review. Every Thursday from 4 p.m. we take you outside the borders of Nigeria to talk about what's happening outside of Nigeria. And top on the list is Canada, even though the rest of the United States is honoring the late president. I can see them there in that cathedral right now. They're laying to rest former President Carter. Yes, I can see all the former president and the sitting president. They're all there for that event. But that's not what we're talking about this afternoon. We're going to be talking about Canada and Justin Trudeau. Of course, for some people, this is not necessarily a surprise per se, because, hey, there's been several calls for him to step down. And for those who understand Nigerian lingo, the people of Canada have seen shaggy under Justin Trudeau, and I'm guessing it was time. And then, of course, when that video came out, everybody was like, what's going to happen to Canada now that they're not even close to election season? But joining me live from Boston is John Gunnison. John always comes on the show to talk to us about issues that have to do with geopolitics, and he's an expert. And so it's my pleasure to say welcome, John, and congratulations and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Maryann. That's very kind of you to call me an expert. I appreciate that, but I always enjoy coming on here.
Great. So, John, well, there's so many expectations for the new year. I don't know if many people saw that, Justin Trudeau was going to start the new year with stepping down as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. But for those who do not understand what's been happening, paint a picture as to what led to Justin stepping down this year.
Well, Maryann, I think that looking into 2025, people did expect that Trudeau would go. It was more a question of when than a question of whether he would go. Canada have been scheduled to have elections in the year 2025, no matter what. They have a mandatory period in which they must have an election. And the last time that they could possibly schedule an election would have been October of 2025. However, many people have been expecting that Trudeau might go even before that, because he's become so unpopular in Canada. His approval ratings are so low. And the Liberal Party that he leads were hoping to go into the election with a different candidate as their party leader.
And I see that there are so many people who are already tapped to be taking over from him. But then there are those who are saying that his party might not necessarily get any votes whatsoever, being that the policies and the positions that they've taken over time have not necessarily endeared the people to them.
Well, they will get some votes, but they're certainly going to get a lot fewer votes than they had the last time they had an election. Canada tends to have a pendulum effect where parties go way up and way down in their popularity. We've seen parties that are very popular lose almost all of their support after a single election. And that's happening right now to the Liberal Party in Canada. They've been in power for the last 9 years. When they came into office in 2015, they were very popular, had a lot of support. And over the decade that followed, they've progressively lost more and more of their support. And they're now trailing the Conservative Party, their main rival, significantly. They're down by 20 points in the polls. And some of the polls are suggesting that the Liberals are going to be seeing a wipeout of this election, going from over 100 seats down to 30 or 40. And they are widely expected to be out of government whenever the next election happens.
Talking about elections, it's not holding in January, obviously, and so those who are getting ready and positioning themselves, I have some names, here in front of me of people who they think, in fact, 2 women have been tapped to run for the Liberal Party who might take over from Justin. I asked you this question when America was getting ready for the elections. Do you think Canada is also ready to have a female lead them on that level?
Well, Canada have had female heads of state because the head of state of Canada is the monarch of the United Kingdom. So they've had Queen Elizabeth as their head of state for the last how many years it was, 70 years. You could probably remind me, Maryann, as a Commonwealth citizen yourself.
Yeah.
But Canada have had female heads of state. They've also had one female head of government before. There was a woman named Kim Campbell who very briefly served as the Prime Minister of Canada in the 1990s. She was put into office in the same way that the person who follows Trudeau will be put into office, merely to lead her party into an election. And it was a complete and utter wipeout for her in that election. The Conservative Party that she led lost all but 2 seats in the Canadian Parliament when she was the party leader. So the last time that there was a female Prime Minister of Canada, it did not go well for the party that selected her. So perhaps that pattern will repeat. Whoever the next leader of the Liberal Party is being set up to fail.
And that's why I asked that question, because a lot of things have happened. But most importantly, this reminds me of Theresa May and her very short-lived government. Maybe Theresa even had some time. It's the last one. What's her name? The last
Liz Truss.
Oh my goodness,
Liz Truss.
It was really short for. And so the moment you mentioned that, I just thought about her. I'm wondering what policies would be able to get Canada out of the doldrums right now, because Donald Trump made a funny comment about Justin, saying that he could become a governor of one of the areas, and that meaning that America would be, let's say, generous enough to make Canada one of its states. But then I hear that he responded. In fact, there was a tweet that he responded to, I think, from Elon Musk, saying that there's no chance, and I'm not going to use the words exactly, but that Canada is not going to in any way come under the powers of the United States. Let's talk about that, and Donald Trump being a bit cheeky.
Well, there's been a few times in history, Maryann, where parts of Canada could possibly have become part of the United States. When the United States was first founded during the American War of Independence against Britain, there were Canadian provinces that were also colonies, just like the colonies that became the first U.S. states. And some of them did have interest in joining the American Revolution. Places like Nova Scotia, which is now a Canadian province, at the time was a British colony, just like Massachusetts was.
Yeah.
But it wasn't possible for them to link up with the continental U.S. and join the revolution. The United States has invaded Canada twice during the War of Independence and then again during the War of 1812. But the United States has a very bad record in military conflict against Canada. Both times the United States invaded Canada, it ended in disaster for the United States. The Canadians won both times. More recently, in the 1990s, there was some talk about Canadian provinces joining the United States because the largest Canadian province, Quebec, which speaks French, different from the rest of Canada, was pursuing possible independence through a referendum. And provinces in Canada that were on the Atlantic Ocean coast that would have been cut off from the rest of Canada if Quebec became independent, we're talking about considering joining the United States in that scenario. So at various times, there's been talk about the possibility that some or all of Canada could join the United States. However, today, I think that it's more about social media trolling and bullying than it is an actual suggestion that's legitimate. But the Canadian leadership and others around the world don't really have any choice but to take this kind of bullying and trolling seriously, because the person making these threats is about to become the most powerful person on the planet.
I can't wait for us to talk about the inauguration when the time comes. I can't wait to have you talk about Donald Trump's inauguration and what, if you guys are going to be holding your breath in the United States. But let's stay with Canada. How can we qualify, or I don't know if the word is quantify, Justin Trudeau's leadership so far? Many would say it started on a good note and then, halfway, but it just became a disaster.
I think that that's close to a consensus, Maryann. That's what most people in Canada believe and would agree with. When Trudeau came into power in 2015, he was very, very popular. This was after a long period where the Conservative Party had been in power, and Trudeau brought some youthful energy to the office. He is also the son of one of Canada's most famous people ever. His father, Pierre Trudeau, was Prime Minister of Canada for 15 years, and he was something of a celebrity leader who brought glamour and vibrance and a celebrity factor to the Canadian political system. So there was a lot of excitement that this dynastic heir was coming into power, this young, fresh face, someone who promised leading based on values and promoting the Canadian image around the world. There was a lot of pride in Trudeau at that time. But over the 9 years that he's been in power, people have gotten a bit tired of him. His image as a moral leader, someone who led with values, has been damaged by various scandals that have happened. Corruption scandals, not as serious as the corruption scandals around Donald Trump by any means, but things that were serious. There was the suggestion that he was interfering in the prosecution, the criminal prosecution investigation of a powerful company that he was politically connected with. That really damaged his image as someone who led on the basis of moral values. Something else that's really damaged him is the cost of living crisis. And people in Canada believe that Trudeau has exacerbated the cost of living crisis through his policies.
I can tell that. I mean, there was a time also on social media where people were saying, I saw people saying, well, a lot of Canadians are leaving Canada because Canada's become so difficult to live in. But it's surprising that more and more people are running to Canada from this part of the world. And I'm wondering, what's the catch?
Well, Canada has experienced huge waves of immigration over the last several years. There's been about 500,000 people entering Canada as new immigrants every single year since the pandemic. And Trudeau's policy has been to welcome large numbers of new arrivals. The idea was that this would help boost the Canadian economy. As we all know, immigration is usually very beneficial economically. You've got new workers contributing to the economy. It can also bring down the cost of services if you've got more workers who are looking for service jobs than there are service jobs available.
I'm so sorry, John. We have to go on a very quick break. We'll be back.
Sure.
We'll be right back.
Of course.
Yeah.
No problem.
More conversation, more talk, more right after this.
Attention all stations, your captain speaking. We announce the takeoff of 2 pension giants. T-minus 20 seconds for a secure future. Begin final checks. Access pensions passengers? Check. ARM pensions passengers? Check. Access ARM pensions, go!
Introducing Access ARM Pensions. Bespoke retirement solutions to suit your needs. Access ARM Pensions.
It's mission time.
This is it. The ultimate stage for young minds to battle it out.
The governors are above the law. They tend not to lean on to public participation.
Governors can make any decision without fear of
what remains of a person's identity if it's only measured by external.
The urgency to safeguard life should outweigh preserving cultural sites.
Auditions for the I Beg to Differ Secondary Schools Debate Tournament is on. Do you have the passion, the intellect, the fire that stand above the rest? Then prove it.
The hallmark of any thriving society is in its youth.
Study organization should be planned carefully into the data.
Standardized tests is a recipe for anxiety.
Prove you're the next great debater Nigeria has been waiting for. I Beg to Differ. Auditions open December 12, 2024 and close January 12, 2025. The clock is ticking. Visit www.nigeriainfo.fm now to register. I Beg to Differ. The Tournament of Champions.
Find amazing treats for everyone this holiday with Showmax. Celebrate like a champion with soccer.
Very well taken.
Find your festive inspo with our masters of style.
That's what I'm here for.
Embark on a fun-filled global adventure.
Here we go.
Share your love moments with family and friends.
My son, the most handsome.
And enjoy some truly royal spoils.
I want the power to control what happens in my life.
Only on Showmax, because everyone deserves a holiday treat.
Attention travelers, pack your bags. ValueJet now flies from Lagos to Owerri and Owerri to Lagos twice a week. Enjoy a great mix of modern convenience, affordable fares, and hassle-free travel on every flight. Whatever your reason for travel, ValueJet gets you there in style and comfort. To book your flights, visit our website at www.flyvaluejet.com or download our mobile app on Google Play Store or App Store.
ValueJet, wings for everyone.
Success is like an aeroplane. You only see the graceful flight high up in the sky, but not the roaring, powerful engines propelling it. Likewise, in the world of e-payments, you only see transactions done, funds remitted. But who pioneered these financial technology solutions? Well, you knew it as ValueCard, now Unified Payments, Nigeria's premier financial technology service provider. Yes, it starts here. Find out more at www.up-ng.com. Unified Payments, innovations that work for you.
Stay sharp. Fuel up and make sure say you stay on top of your game. Power Horse go give you the boost where you need to conquer the day. Make sure say you no miss this unstoppable offer for Naija. You fit buy Power Horse 250 ml now for just 999 naira. But if you need to boost your ginger, you fit grab the 355 ml for only 1,299 naira. No dull yourself. Waka go the nearest store today. Make yourself power up. Power Horse, unstoppable you.
Everyone says I'm beautiful and bold. They say I'm fashionable. And to crown it up, very confident. And my secret is...
People say I'm good looking, funny, hardworking, and to crown it up, very confident. And my secret is...
So whether in the office or at home,
in the streets or on the dance floor,
anytime, any day, I never lose my confidence. And the secret to my confidence is Wazobia perfume.
Absolutely. Wazobia perfume gives the authenticity and long-lasting fragrance all day. That's my secret confidence.
Wazobia perfume is available in body spray.
Also available in supermarkets and markets near you. Wazobia perfume, the correct scent.
.3 Nigeria Info.
Your number one station for talk. Let's talk.
This is Hard Facts.
We're back. This is Hard Facts, the nation's number one talk news and sports radio station. We're broadcasting live from our audiovisual studios right here in Atimiyan Crescent, Victoria Island, Lagos. I'm Maryann Okon. We're talking about Justin Trudeau. But John Gunnison is our guest. He's joining us from Boston in the United States. And we're looking at the future of Canada, politically and otherwise. Of course, the economy is a big, big issue that everyone's talking about. Hence the reason why the Prime Minister just recently stepped aside. But who is wearing the crown next? And what direction do the people want this next leadership to go? Justin, before we went on that break, you were talking about migration to Canada.
Yes, that's right. And Maryann, it's the first time that I've been confused for being Justin Trudeau, but I take that as a compliment, considering how popular he was as a handsome figure, especially early in his tenure. But yes, Maryann, that's right. There's been huge waves of immigration to Canada, especially since the pandemic. Trudeau set up a policy that allowed about 500,000 people to enter Canada as new immigrants every year since the pandemic. The idea was that this would boost the economy, as immigration usually does. However, it has also put a lot of pressure, especially on the housing in Canada. Canada is an enormous country. It's the second largest country in the world in land area after only Russia, but it's only got about 45 million people in it. So you would think there's lots of space for people to build homes and expand cities and towns. But that hasn't been happening at the speed that it needs to. There's too many people in Canada and not enough places for them to live, surprisingly. And that's something that the opposition has really emphasized politically as they head towards the next election.
Migration has been an issue for so many countries. One of the reasons that the United Kingdom had Brexit was because they were trying to see if they could deal with the migration that they had there, because every other day someone's on a dinghy coming to the United Kingdom. Same thing for France. This is also an issue, I think, with just the Trump administration. And he's talking about Greenland. For me, that's another topic that you and I are going to have to discuss some other day. But if let's say the Republicans decide to take over power in Canada, do you think that they will put a handle on the issue of migration?
So the Conservative Party are the front runners to win the next election in Canada, and they've emphasized that they want to reduce immigration a lot in their political rhetoric, and it's made them very popular. They're leading in the polls against Trudeau and the Liberal Party by more than 20 percentage points. So the backlash against immigration, the political unpopularity of immigration, the same trend that's been taking place in the United States, in Europe, around the world, is certainly taking place in Canada as well. So Pierre Poilievre, who's the leader of the Conservative Party, is very likely to ride into office on this wave of anti-immigrant sentiment.
There's just a lot to be seen as the elections come sometime this year. But finally, you talked about, Justin's father being a former leader and, of course, the dynasty. What happens now? I'm imagining what would be going on in the mind of, Mr. Trudeau's father, being that his government did not necessarily end on a very good note. And what does that do to that so-called legacy?
It's very interesting to think about the legacy of Pierre and Justin Trudeau together, because there are some shared themes. Something that Pierre Trudeau was famous for was emphasizing multiculturalism as a core value of Canada. He is said sometimes to be the first prime minister that really emphasized multiculturalism and really made it into a bedrock concept of Canada. Since Canada was founded, it has been multicultural because of the French speakers in Quebec and the English speakers in the other provinces. So it's always been part of what Canada is, a multilingual, multi-ethnic, multinational country. But with Pierre Trudeau, it became an even bigger part of the Canadian identity. And this is something that Justin Trudeau also emphasized very often during his tenure as the leader of Canada. And now we're seeing a sentiment in Canada against this concept. The people who are going to support the Conservative Party in the election aren't necessarily hostile to the idea of multiculturalism, but they do want to see less immigration happening in the current day. They want to see the new arrivals to Canada slow down, fewer people come. So many people would interpret this as something of a backlash against that idea of Canada as an open, welcoming country for all immigrants to enter. It's also interesting to remember that one of the first moments for Justin Trudeau on the national stage that really made him into a famous, popular figure was the eulogy that he gave for his father at his father's funeral. When Pierre Trudeau died, Justin was still quite young, and he gave a very moving, very well-received address at the funeral. This is part of what catapulted him into the national spotlight at such a young age. So he is truly a dynastic politician, someone who really built his image and reputation on his father's legacy and is so tied to his father's legacy.
Yeah, I'm just still thinking what the old man would be thinking. I mean, in my part of the world, they say that he'd be rolling in his grave. I don't know what he'll be thinking. But finally, before I let you go, Justin, what is it with Justin today? John, before I let you go, let's talk about Canada's relationship with the US going forward now, because we've seen the bullying, the back and forth on social media. But sincerely, if maybe a conservative government comes into, takes over, what will be the relationship going forward?
So the relationship with the United States is arguably the most important thing for Canada to get right. It's a international border that is 5,500 miles long. It's one of the largest international borders in the world. And the two countries are also each other's largest trading partners. Not only is the U.S. Canada's largest trading partner, but Canada is the U.S.'s largest trading partner. The economic relationship is critical for both countries. Anyone who's visited Washington, D.C. would see the Canadian embassy and notice that it is the largest embassy in the city. This is such an important relationship. And it's been a very positive relationship for a very long time. The two countries have a trade agreement, which was previously the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, and has since been renegotiated and retitled as USMCA, US-Canada-Mexico Trade Agreement. This is one of the most important things for the Canadian economy, is this trade relationship. And Trump has been threatening to put a 25% tariff on all goods from Canada in the United States. So for the finance minister of Canada, who recently resigned, triggering this political crisis for Trudeau, Christina Freeland, the focus wasn't even on this rhetoric about conquering Canada, annexing Canada. It was about a threat that is seen as more tangible, more serious, this threat of 25% tariffs. This could devastate the Canadian economy, take 2% off their GDP, cost thousands of dollars in extra goods purchases for Canadian citizens, would also damage the U.S. economy. There is some hope that with Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative Party leader, someone who is rhetorically and temperamentally more similar with Trump, there could be a more positive relationship and avert these kinds of crises. Also, I want to mention that J.D. Vance, who's the incoming Vice President of the United States, his best friend is a Canadian politician, a man who is likely to go into the cabinet if the Conservative Party take power, which they almost certainly will. So not only could there be a positive relationship between Poilievre and Trump one-on-one, but also the vice president will have his own best friend, someone that has worked with him on projects who he went to law school with inside the Canadian government. So there's some hope that this could avert the crises that Canada might be facing in a Trump presidency.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed and eyes on Canada to see how things unfold. Justin, my goodness. John, something has to give today. Justin Trudeau is gone.
We're talking about Justins. Yeah, Justin Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau is gone now. So please, John Gunnison is a geopolitics expert, and he's joined us today on the show to talk to us about Canada. And of course, the whole world will be watching to see who becomes the new Prime Minister of Canada. And then, John, I want you back here soon, maybe on Inauguration Day, so we can talk about what America is looking forward to under a Trump administration with his very good friend now, Elon Musk. I can't wait to have that conversation with you.
Looking forward to it, Maryann. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, John. Well, that's it on Global Review. David is with me in the studio, and we've got a lot of talking to do later on. Once again, I want to say thank you to my friend John for coming on the show. Stay tuned, Lagos. We'll be right back after these messages.
Get 99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.